The Nonverbal Communicator.
Mike Siegel is a communications consultant, a media giant, a pop culture icon, you can find him on Wikipedia, a big mouth lawyer, a liberal turned conservative, an advocate of business, a bit of a health nut, and a good mama's boy from Brooklyn. What most people don't know is that Mike Siegel has a PhD in communications, volunteers for several charity groups, and has dedicated much of his life to higher education, both as student and teacher. Now enjoy this presentation from Dr. Siegel.
Folks, as we cover the various elements of communication, let me just make a simple point. The power of nonverbal communication is probably the most impact of any of the areas we consider. And there's a reason for that. It's not because we create our elements of nonverbal in a contrived way. It's because nonverbal communication is really representing who we are in that communication environment, far more than the words we say. We all know that people can say things that may or may not be believable. But nonverbal communication is typically very believable, and the reason is very simple. It's because nonverbal communication is oftentimes instinctive. It is not contrived, it is not created, it is not planned in the way a speech can be planned, with the way the words can be planned. Nonverbal communication simply happens. And what we know from studies that have been done is that when there is a disagreement between verbal and nonverbal behavior, an audience, and again, this could be one person in the audience, it could be 10, it could be 1,000. The audience is going to believe the nonverbal behavior because it is primarily involuntary and it is not controlled by the participant in the communication process. So let's go through some of the areas because this will help understand and make this very practical for you. And understanding this is going to be extremely important to your being successful as a communicator. Just to give you an example, if you're sitting there with one other person, having a conversation, and we'll get into eye contact in more detail later, but just to make one quick point, if you're looking out the door, if you're in a coffee shop and you're looking out the door and that person is looking at you trying to communicate, or you're looking at your telephone messages or your text messages on your phone, is that person going to believe that you are paying attention to them, that what you're saying is important to them? Scott Thayer is with us once again. It's always a pleasure to have him here. Scott, what do you think? If I'm talking to you and we're in a coffee shop and you're looking out the door or you're looking at your telephone checking messages or checking text messages, and I'm trying to make a point to you.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?